Also, and we've won a bunch of awards with the 70-30 blend.
Right.
And, you know, by doing that, that keeps us out of the having to mix other product with ours. A lot of the corn-fed animals, there's leftover 50-50 trim after they make the 80-20. So that's why we import a lot of lean meats. You know, there's a big buzz right now about Argentina.
Yeah,
you know.
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah.
I figured you would. I don't think it's as bad as it says. You know, Uruguay imports more than Argentina. They're like 7th on the list.
Okay.
They use about 75% of their own meat. I think that it's a tariff play. There's a big oil reserve called the dead cow, the vaca muerta, down in Argentina. And I think that it's kind of all part of Trump's trade negotiations. You know, he's a New Yorker. You know, he says, hey, we're going to take Argentina meat. And the whole ranching community says, you know, hey, F you, pal. And he says, hey, F you too. And I think that's it. It's really, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, we make 25 billion pounds of beef in the U.S. and they're talking 137 million pounds. It's a drop in the bucket. It is concerning though. Like, is this the answer? Is that always our answer if our herd gets too low? So those are some things I think we need to look at as a nation. But the supply chain of it, like we were talking about earlier, is just it's so funky because there's just so few that control the end product to get to the consumer. And so I think, what is it? Tyson and Cargill just had to pay $88 billion for price fixing. So
it's crazy.
It's crazy. And I think that, and I've talked to some other independent packers, it's not that that's a big deal. It's just, look, you guys have lobbyists. You got to slap on the wrist for over $1 billion of corruption, and the consumer took it, and now the president's coming out and saying ranchers need to make it cheaper. It's a hard pill for ranchers to swallow. Yes. You know, and relatively, I mean, cattle came back. They went down hard yesterday, and then already kind of bounced back. Beginning of January, feeder cattle were 260, and they're 360 now. So it's not that bad. And I think that, honestly, if people can just keep finding their own producers who they want to buy beef from and buy direct and cut out the noise, let the noise be the noise. That's the most important thing, is if you find someone that's trying to make a vertically integrated beef program, which is very hard, support them. Yeah. You know, support them the best you can.
Historically speaking, and maybe now, like the temperature check on it, how hard is it for ranchers? Because I know there was a big lull maybe 10 to 5 years ago where they were losing a lot of ranchers. They were saying maybe 10,000 to 20,000 ranchers a year were kind of dropping out of the game. Is it trending in the right direction now from a supply chain issue? Is it historically a very hard business for people?
It is a very hard business. And I mean, cows got to eat on Christmas too, right? So, but it's something that's a love passion. Yeah. And I think that it's, with the prices the way they are, it stopped the bleeding, or at least slowed it a little bit, as far as the consolidation, where smaller ones were getting gobbled up by bigger ones. You know, guys are finally able to pay their bills and, you know, buy a new pickup or pay the old one off and a new tractor. And there was a lot of worry and concern if the market wasn't going to last. Right. They've never seen prices like this for their calves. But part of the herd rebuilding, it's tough because guys that have never made this much money, they've had to leverage themselves from when the cattle market's way down. They can sell their heifers instead of holding them to replenish their own herd and get more money. So lowest cattle numbers in like 72 years, highest calf prices. Guys are taking advantage of the market and just selling off a lot of items, a lot of cattle that they might have kept for seed stock.
Interesting. Will that have knock-on effects like down the line?
I think it's starting to turn around. Bred heifers are worth a lot of money, to where let the free market play. Right. You know, the free market's going to come in and say, look, if it costs me, you know, $4,000 to make a bred heifer and I have to sit on a little longer, but it's worth $5,000 in the end, but I was only going to make $500 on selling it off mama. Right. I'm going to try this. Yeah. And guys are going to start keeping it, or their herd's going to dwindle until it forces them to do that. Yeah. Yeah. There's a big beef on dairy push right now. And I think they fill like 15-18% of the cattle on feed. And that's where these dairies have gone out and found the best Angus genetics, and they're crossing their dairy cows with them. Holsteins can handle corn a lot better. And so they're just taking them from mom day one, and they go to a calf ranch, and then they grow up and they're in a feedlot, and they are harvested before they're 18 months old.
Oh, interesting.
They're cookie cutters.
Yeah.
Which we can't knock it too much because it is plugging the hole on the demand for beef. It grades prime. It fills the void. But they're seeing a lot of like abscess livers, 50, 60%, because the Angus genetics aren't made to take grain and corn and that hot feed. And we can go into a whole nother discussion about what the grandpa's corn and this corn, probably a little bit different, right?
Right.
And so they are not genetically made over time to handle this much. And so they get abscesses in their livers. That'll affect some skirt steak. Skirt steak prices go higher. And you're leaving liver on the table. I mean, if you lose over 50% of the livers on these things, liver's good for you.
Yes.
Yes. I'm
maybe
sure you
not
guys
one
are
with an
always
abscess.
looking to source liver somewhere,
Right.
So I think it's a temporary plug in the boat, but we're going to have to just rebuild it back. The hard part is, man, everyone's turned onto this beef thing now.
I know, right.
That, it's like they did it with the eggs, but it's a faster turnaround. A cow has the same gestation as a human, 9.5 months, 40 weeks. So you get a crop a year.
Yeah.
And chickens, they could pump them out a lot faster. Yeah. What took time to diminish is going to take time to replenish.
All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.